On the rep and non-rep for our facilities. More information has been supplied by the province, and our community service director Phil has had conversations with the user groups. So we're going to get the information now, and then we're going to have a conversation, and then we're going to show through a consensus of council which direction that we would like the admin to do here. So we'll start with you, Paul Casey, to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is coming back to council because at our last council meeting, Councillor Lemko asked for some clarification on the guidelines because it didn't seem at that time that the program that we had adopted for the youth in the arena and the dance studio met the guidelines in his mind. So I went and this was before any information came to me from Hockey Alberta or Hockey Canada. So I went and just took a look at the guidelines that the province has up online. So basically, the way I interpreted it is that the program that we put in place for the youth at the arena based on, and the dance studio, based on the written guidelines that are on the government's website, was not a viable option. The only option we had was we could go all non-rep, we could go rep, full rep with 12 and under exempt, but anybody over 12 would have to show proof of vaccine or other measurements, or we could go with a rep that included an exemption for youth 17 and under, do not have to be tested, or not have to be, screened, but all adults participating, referees, coaches, trainers, and any fans and any spectators over the age of 12 would have to provide proof of vaccine or other means. However, with the exception that if the officials were under 17 or under, they would not have to be screened. So it's just the spectators, if they were 12 or over, would have to be screened. And so that's what I had. I basically wrote this long memo that I'm not going to read, but that's the point of it was that based on the information that I had available to me at the time, the recommendation was that we go to the REP program that exempts the youth 17 for the swimming pool, for the arena, for the swimming pool for swimming lessons, and for the dance studio, and for any other recreation facility that the youth would be involved in. But all other people, all adults, would have to be tested or show proof of vaccine or show a negative test or an exemption letter. And that was the recommendation I made. Now, subsequent to that, Hockey Alberta issued their guidelines that seem to indicate, or do indicate, that we could have a rep program or a non-rep arena with a rep program for adults. And I appreciate that, but it doesn't say that anywhere in the guidelines from AHS. I reached out to Municipal Affairs, they told me to get in touch with AHS. I reached out to AHS, they said, we can't help you, you have to talk to somebody else. So I have nobody, I don't know who to talk to. They said, contact someone in Alberta Health. I don't have any contact for anybody in Alberta Health. I looked online, I couldn't find anybody that would deal with it. So while I appreciate the information that Councillor Roy provided after the fact, I still think that because of the situation with where our arena is with the pool, to avoid issues for our staff and for council getting calls saying, why are you doing this? Because I'm not a councillor and I'm not a staff member at the facility, but I've had at least 10 people ask me, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I mean, I understand the frustration that council has. It's frustrating for me to have to keep bringing this back. But my recommendation, or our recommendation, would be that we go with the REP program with the youth exempt, but all adults have to show proof of vaccine.
Okay. Phil, you've talked to the user groups. Could you give us what the feedback is from them?
Thank you, Worship. So I did contact all the user groups of our facilities. I'll start with the skating club. Some of the concerns they had is that if we did go to the rep program, even with the youth exemption, they may lose their coach, who is not medically exempt and will not agree to screening. They don't have a volunteer base to monitor and check this, so they would rely on the town to ensure that the vaccinations are checked, and same as medical exemptions and testings. They would most likely lose some skaters in the young age if we went to this program. But then it would have to wait and see and what decisions parents make.
So for figure skating, it doesn't really matter which program we put in at the arena, because no matter what, the coach would have to be vaccinated, have proof of vaccination.
Yes.
So no matter what we do, we can't do anything that's gonna help them out unless their coach gets a vaccination,
Yes.
okay?
And again, it's some parents that are not vaccinated and don't want to provide a test to go in and ultimately tie their kids' skates and get them ready for their activity. The two dance groups, one is all adult, and they were no problem with a full rep restrictions. They're already doing that anyway. The Vegreville School of Ballet, they have their own policy in place as a private business that it's full vaccination. No parents are allowed to watch dance. So there's no complaints from the parents or that dance organization. The Vipers have no concerns. They are full rep already, as it is a league requirement for them. They will check and monitor all players, staff, and spectators at their events. Minor hockey in discussion, so the youth need to be in the parent, youth need a parent in the building with them, especially the younger ages. Player numbers will decrease. They will either move to other associations with less restrictions, and that will cause minor hockey to have to refund player registrations. The coaches are already fully vaccinated in Vegreville minor hockey. And if we proceeded to the rep with the youth exemption, exemptions, as Councillor Rower said, VDMA would need a timeline to plan and make decisions based on the current league and the schedules. So how they're working it is the leagues are looking at who's doing what programs and doing tiering games based on those decisions that municipality has made.
Okay. So the question would be, if we were in rep in our facilities or rep with a youth exemption, who would be providing the security and the checking? That would fall to the municipality, is that correct?
Yes, it would fall on us.
Okay.
Just based on all the groups, it would have to fall on us too. And also one other thing was swimming. So the schools at this point right now are canceling their swim lessons because they can't mandate the difference between the full rep and which child is vaccinated or not. So that was one thing we took into account too, that if we went to a rep with youth exemptions, that swim club, swimming lessons, and school swim could proceed.
The only problem would be for the same as everything else, is that the parent would not be allowed into the facility if not proof of vaccination.
Exactly.
Okay, so who polices if we go to the non-rep and the restriction? Who does the policing of our facilities then? Would that fall to the user groups?
Yes.
Essentially, we could put the onus on the user groups, but it ultimately is our responsibility to make sure it's happening. So we might have to have somebody somebody from the town go into the facility when there's something going on and do an audit and check people's you know, make sure that they're wearing their masks and they're socially distanced and they're only one cohort family or one cohort if they're living alone. So, I mean, ultimately, we can say, for instance, minor hockey, if we go this way, this is what you have to do, but the onus falls on the town to make sure it's being done.
Okay. So the way I see it, we have like the three choices. We go full rep and at the arena and the pool, where we would probably use one door and have security right there checking for vaccination, proof of vaccination. If we went to the rep with the youth exemption, it would be exactly the same thing, except for anybody under 17 would not have to produce proof of vaccination. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, when we say no, the youth exemption, it is important to note, though, that if you go to that, that doesn't include spectators. I just want that brought forward. So if we go in a facility and we make it rep with the youth exemption, and let's use the arena, because the fact is that's the place you get the biggest spectator crowds. But what we would be saying then too is kids 12 to 17 that are in the stands would have to provide that. So that is actually a big difference from the way it is now, because it's not just exempting there. We would then make it that everybody in the stands, 12 to 17, would also have to provide.
The participants under 17 don't have to show proof of vaccination, but any family member that's under 12, or sorry, over 12, would it then, under the rep with the youth exemption, would have to prove vaccination.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, because it is a difference than the non-rep. Say a 13-year-old sibling isn't subject to that, they could still come. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a lot of logistics being involved here, and no matter what, the policing of these restrictions and how we're gonna set up is gonna fall directly onto the town. We are gonna have to carry the load, and if we're gonna do this, well, I think we should try to make it as easiest as we possibly can. But I'm gonna give everybody a chance here to say what their thought is. And so we're gonna call them options, if you don't mind. Option one is the full restriction program. Option two is the restriction exemption program. Option two will be the other, where the restrictions of the building come in and the distancing and everything. And then number three is the full rep with a youth exemption. Those are the three choices we have. Am I correct? And we're all in agreement that no matter which one we pick, it'll fall to the municipality to police it, no matter what. Even, and if it's a minor hockey game and we're in the non-rep facility, it'll be town employees or RCMP or somebody going in there in the crowd to make sure everybody's wearing their mask and the right cohorts are with everybody, and the capacity is nowhere near where it should be. Have I got that right?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Phil.
Could you just repeat those three options again?
Full rep,
Same as what you put on the back, yeah.
Okay, that's what I have there. That's,
yeah. Yeah, okay, so you got one, I said them a little wrong, I put the non-rep in there, so the rep with the extension is number two, and the non-rep is number three. Okay, so we'll start over here with Councillor Lemke. What are your thoughts and your concerns?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. Just reviewing all this, and thank you, Phil, for putting this together, and Paul for following up on my concerns. I'm leaning this way, non-rep, and the reason I do that is because it provides an opportunity for everyone to use the facility in a limited capacity. The library, I believe, right now is non-rep, and I'm not sure. It's kind of 12 to 17-year-olds can attend school and not have to have proof of vaccinations. But then when they go to the arena to watch their brother play, they have to be vaccinated. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The way that we can get around this is go non-rep and manage it accordingly with with 1/3 capacity, masking, and social distancing as a better option than rep, and this emphasis on vaccinations and all that is important, but then the challenges of managing that from a town perspective or from a people perspective that are attending our facilities just divides our community even worse when you don't allow people to participate in sport. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Waters.
So with this decision, that's as a whole, the pool, the dance studio, and the arena as a whole, correct?
That's the way that we're looking
That's
at it.
the way our options are right now.
Yeah. Councillor Orwawa feels that we can split it up, and even though we can't find that within the Alberta guidelines, Councillor Orwawa thinks that with her consultation with some other legal people and with a conversation with other municipalities, that it could be done. But we cannot find that anywhere within the regs. Is that correct?
That's correct. There is nothing in the regulations that I have read as early or as late as last Thursday that allow that. But information did come from Hockey Alberta saying that that was an option. Now, how they came up with that, I assume they talked to somebody at Alberta Health. I have no idea, but there is nothing in the regulations that would support that.
Okay. So looking at it as a whole, not wanting to split the families up and having siblings be able to attend without proof of vaccination if you're 12 or over, I would have to go with the non-rep. It would still require someone from the town to be there and monitor it either way, but just so we don't have the division and we can keep the youth sports active. We are big with hockey. We want to keep hockey here. Don't want to be seeing any of our potential players going to another team elsewhere. I'd like to keep everybody here and local. So right now I'd have to be looking at the non-rep.
Okay. Councillor Riddick.
So I want to clarify again with Paul. Can you please tell us which is your recommendation and what we have currently? So to differentiate what we have currently in place and what your recommendation would be providing as a different application.
What we currently have in place for the arena and the dance studio is the non-rep program. For this aquatic center, we have the rep program in place. What the recommendation is to go to the non-rep program with the youth exemption so that the youth 17 and under can continue to participate in their sport or their activity, but that all other people that are adults or over 12 years old that are coming to watch need to have proof of vaccine or a negative test. That's the recommendation. And I'm not trying to cause problems. I think if the arena was in a completely different location in town, I wouldn't even have brought this up. But the arena, and I understand that it can be divided in half because there's a door and it's two facilities, but it's a conjoined building and you are going to get, guaranteed, people saying, how come they can go into the arena and I can't go watch my child swim? So if we're making it non-rep for the whole facility, the swimming pool, that goes away. And then you're going to have other issues. How come you're letting unvaccinated people go in the pool and
Believe me, and half the population of Sunday public swimming? Well, you'll see. But we're taking opinions right now, and everybody's going to get their point across.
So thank you for clarifying that, Paul, because I appreciate, so this is, the people that have contacted me are expressing exactly that concern. And I do feel, again, this is confusing. But the people that have contacted me are people that have basically said, if I turn right, this is the rule, and if I turn left, it's this rule. It's not clear, and unfortunately, we've put them in that position by applying what our interpretation is from the province. So I'm going to go with your recommendation because I do feel, based on the conversation that I had with this parent who was very upset, and I understood where they were coming from, is that it's unclear and it's unfair for our staff. Now, I would be curious to see what kind of assistance we would be able to get from Alberta Health and who that person might be to be able to provide that clarity. Because right now, and this is based on last week, at this point, 40 schools had reached over a 10% outbreak, and we have one of them locally. So even talking about, you know, some of the differentiations that we talked about, swim club, school lessons, swim lessons, and how that fits into that facility, we have some inconsistencies and some local peculiarities or concerns that we need to be aware of. So I'm going to go with your recommendation, Paul.
If I could also say that if we went with non-rep, then we have to deal with the adults, and we would have to put in a rep program for the adults, which means if that's at the swimming pool, if there's people coming swimming, if people are just coming swimming and we go non-rep, adults can't go. And there's a lot of people adults that I know that swim, but they will not be able to use the facility because adult activities are not allowed.
Exactly. So, thank you. You're next, Councilor Orwell.
Well, if we went non-rep, actually adult activities are allowed because it says right there, you can have adult programming. So again, it would be a matter of rejigging things, but you can have adult swim. So I just want to clarify that actually wouldn't make it that you couldn't do an adult program.
If I could, that's your interpretation off the Hockey Alberta site. That's not in the regulations, in the Alberta health regulations online.
Which is exactly what we've had every time from the province. So what I'm saying is this. I don't want to beat this dead horse down any further. We've more than gone over it. We, right now, I believe that we should still be looking at them as two separate buildings. I think we should do that to err on the side of caution. I think then we could have an AHS person come in and give us a proper interpretation versus us guessing whether or not. I believe Councillor Lemko actually may have a contact with AHS that would come in and do that, and that would stop us from making a decision that would impact in a harsh way. Right now, the reality is if we have non-rep at the arena, it does what we just said. It allows, because otherwise we also are saying kids 12 to 17 cannot come see a sibling. Those two buildings, in my opinion, are not the same thing. One is, we can't suggest that there is 200, 300, 400 people that could sit in the stands and watch at the pool. That's a different building than that facility that has a huge spectator spot within it. Right now, the exact numbers for fixed seating in the arena is 637. We can't pretend that that's the same building as the arena, as the pool next to it. I agree we need to get a clear decision from the province on whether that building can be separated. It does appear to from everything that I've had and have presented, but I want a proper answer because we've been trying to interpret. We've been interpreting, and I appreciate what you put forward, Paul, because we keep interpreting what the province puts, which is half information. And they've done half information all the way through. They did it to us with the ODR over the winter, where we were said a certain number, went there, and then found out buried in an order there was a different interpretation. I did reach out on my own to the minister's office, and obviously I got slightly different information, but I want us to have a clear answer. So my recommendation today would be that we err on the side of caution, that we explain to people why there would be two different facilities regulations, because it is two different buildings. Really, truly is two different, and I believe we should lock the two facilities so that there wouldn't be that middle door. My recommendation today would be to accept your recommendation for the aquatic center to remain as a rep facility, but that we would look at the arena being non-rep. And it is solely for the reasons that I stated. It is not just a hockey thing. It is not just a figure skating thing. It is literally to the fact that even exempting under the rep program doesn't exempt youth 12 to 17. So we are going to be impacting more than minor hockey. We can talk about the Vipers program being an adult program, and they can run under rep. Their league mandates them to go ahead and all be vaccinated, which is fine. But be aware, we will impact them as well in the stands, because under these programs, 12 to 17-year-olds can't be in there without proof of vaccination. So at this time, I think we should be holding two different facilities with those regulations. I would support rep in the building, non-rep in the arena building, and then I would say we need to immediately bring in anybody we can to give us a written evaluation of whether those two buildings can be separated. But versus changing the regulation on them immediately, that would be my recommendation.
So you be going with an option 4.
Which, Yes, because I believe that it's very clear that this is one thing that is a fact. Regardless of how we want to interpret it, many people are coming up to the same problem that we are. That part's a fact. Because I have the actual one league, and that's only one league out of four. One league out of four has 32 teams in it. They've been updating us daily as to which ones are doing this. Literally, it's at half. 38, 19 out of 38 are doing exactly what we're doing here. So the one thing that's a fact is it's unclear no matter what.
Yeah.
That thing I think is a fair fact to say that everyone's finding it unclear. So I'm saying
Well, as
that's
long
what we
as
could
we're
do.
doing, and everybody here is doing the right thing, the best we can for the taxpayers in our community. And that's who we're thinking about, is the majority of the taxpayers in this community that can use our facilities, so.
And that's what I want to see us do. I know that people hear me speak out when it comes to minor hockey, because obviously that's a group that's going to come to me. But what I'm looking at is this regulation actually seems even clearer in the fact that spectators, that's one aspect we haven't talked about before. We talked about capacity of spectators, but we've never talked about the fact that under these programs, the spectators 12 to 17 must be vaccinated. That's why that actually becomes to me a bigger thing than the participants, because we are now saying in that building, which is the only building that has, 637 seats into it, that we would then say that everyone 12 to 17, and that is also, I would say, a huge resource on our staff. Right now, it is a lot simpler. I understand they're sitting together, there's all these different things that come into play, but counting people coming into a building to get you to 1/3 capacity is a little bit different than there being no capacity in that building, potentially having several hundred people in that building versus a smaller number, and then needing to prove vaccination even on 12 to 17-year-olds. That would be my reason. That's
Okay,
all.
so I don't know where to put your vote, but it's not on our
So-
list, so.
Okay, so
that
my
we're gonna
vote
move.
is that we can separate the two buildings, and I would go rep and non-rep. And otherwise, if we're not willing to separate the two buildings, then I would vote for non-rep to actually allow everybody an opportunity and not separate families that are in space.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Broadjack.
Okay, thank you. And yes, this is very confusing, and even the recommendations are still not clear to me. I do agree with Councillor Warawa that those two buildings should be treated separately because, again, there's just one small roll door that can be locked at all times, starting immediately, and it would, in fact, create a barrier and have those two buildings separate. So I do believe that I would go with Councillor Warawa's recommendation to have the two buildings separate.
That's really not the option that we have.
That's not the option.
Because they haven't, the government of Alberta doesn't give us, they don't say that is an option. So we've asked everybody else along so far, and councillors here made decisions based on the three options that we have in front of us, and the government that doesn't give us that fourth option.
But we don't know that.
Well, we know what, okay, you've had,
Sorry.
okay. let's-
Yeah, again, I mean, it's a choice to play hockey. It's a lot, the kids need the mental health, like they need that, they need to play. It's different, we don't have to have the spectators, but we do need to give the players an option to be able to be on the ice and play. As far as the coaches, having to provide either a proof of vaccination, negative test, or medical exemption, I think that is a good option. I mean, it's
Well, the
not a big-
province has already mandated all coaches.
It's not a
no
big-
matter what
yeah,
option
it's-
we take, have to be vaccinated.
Yeah, it's not a big deal to provide a negative test if they don't want to provide the vaccination. So if we can't separate the two buildings, I would go with administration's recommendation.
So that would be rep with an exemption for youth 12 to 17.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barry.
Yes, thank you. So we're here again, clear as mud. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. The province just seems to be trying to destroy everything. I'll make a comment about the negative test. It's not that easy. You can't get one here in town. I've checked it out just for this purpose because I knew the argument would come up. You have to go to Sherwood Park to get the nearest negative test. So saying that people can have a negative test in 72 hours, that's a lot of fun. Because somehow or other, you gotta figure out your trip to Sherwood Park or some other outside community to get the negative test and then get back here. Shoppers Drug Mart was the only one I could find in Sherwood Park. They're operating right now and offering it. And it'd be interesting if any of the drugstores finally here get cleared to do it. This was a thing that I wanted to look into because it sounded like it was an easy thing. Show a passport or a negative test. Passport's probably easier to get in the long run. So that being said, I still see the buildings as being as one building, but totally different in the fact there are separate doors. We even call them by separate names. The aspect is that it seems to me that by using just one door for the two facilities, it just makes it easier for us so we can monitor just one facility. But does that really serve the people and the public that well? I see them as being totally different buildings because they have really totally different programs in them. I don't see leagues coming to swim. I don't see leagues coming to dance. But certainly when it comes to hockey, you've got leagues play and teams coming from other areas. So the scheduling is entirely different. So I have to say, I see them as totally two different separate entities. I recognize that if we're only given an option of 1, 2, 3, then 3 would be the best one. But I am also curious as to whether or not there isn't an option 4. Just because it isn't on this paper, it doesn't mean it can't exist. And I, as a counselor, don't really want to be told that we only have 3 options. Because if I feel that there's a 4th option, then I also believe that maybe we should look for it. If there is a way of being able to provide more opportunities for the citizens in the community by having them as separate facilities with separate types of programs, then I would appreciate that. The aspect there, we're backed into a corner. And to a large extent, it's because the province is making things so difficult, mainly because they want to use these programs to force people to get vaccinated. It's clear. I'm not against vaccinations, but I really don't like the manipulation of the public in order to try and achieve a higher number. And I'm going to say it, because they went into a program where they bought millions of dollars worth of vaccine and they got to get it used. I still say it's a personal choice. And all of this, what we're doing here, is just running around in circles as a municipality when it's not really what we should be doing. I'm frustrated, and I just don't see how we're really serving our citizens properly by trying to figure out 1, 2, 3. If I have to go with this piece of paper, then I take 3, non-rep. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'll give you my opinion. Basically, the people that pay for those facilities, majority of them are vaccinated. We know that. So I do not feel that we should make different rules for different parts of the facility, because we already seen what happened last time. I don't know how we will police this. Our staff will we'll have to engage with the RCMP when we go non-rep, because we already know that we've seen over the past that we've had a lot of complaints during minor hockey games, and we now have to be the police. We need to go in to games. Now that our facilities are non-rep, so we're gonna say that all facilities are non-rep, because the curling will be over, because there'll be no adults covered.
Why would he have to do that?
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm just asking the question of why we have to do that.
I'm speaking, I'll give
Sorry.
you your turn,
I
please.
apologize.
Now, the majority of people in our community are vaccinated. There's gonna be a lot of pressure put on the town to police where we're at. I feel that we should make everything exactly the same, because it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a taxpayer in this community, you should all have the exact same rights. And we shouldn't be distancing, breaking people. Well, because you swim, you are less than I am. So, we will go with the recommendation that we have right now. I would like to see if there's a possibility down the road that we can make anything better, but for right now, it doesn't look that like we can. So I am voting for rep with exemption for the 12 to 17-year-olds to participate in the organized sport. But it doesn't matter because we've had a recommendation here now. And I don't know what else we could do. So, Councillor Lemko.
Like the forum last night, somebody went first and somebody went last. After listening to the healthy debate, and that's what's beauty about council. There's healthy debate, there's dialogue. There's ability to listen and understand what's happening. After hearing all the debate and being more mindful that our adults would not be able to participate if we went to non-rep, I will change my opinion and I will go with the recommendation from administration.
Councillor Waters.
I wasn't aware myself that the adults could not participate in non-rep. I thought they could. So my interpretation was incorrect then.
Paul?
What the guidelines say, what the Alberta Health Guidelines say, that if you go with non-rep, adult activities cease. Now, I know that there's a counselor on here that will argue that it's program-based and we can have a rep program and not a rep program. The regulations that Alberta Health put out, is with respect to facilities. Nowhere in those regulations does it say anything about programs. It says facilities. And if the facility is non-rep, the facility is non-rep. If the facility is rep, the facility is rep. It does not say that, it does not say in those regulations, and maybe they will change, but right now, the regulations that are out there from Alberta Health say that if it is non-rep, adult activities are not allowed.
Okay. So with further clarification, because as Councillor Barry said, everything's clear as mud, I'm going to be changing to the recommendation of the rep with the youth exemption, because I wasn't aware that the adult participation would cease.
Okay, Councillor Warburton.
And that's what I'm saying though, that is not what we're getting. We are getting right here, and I understand it's from one group. That group waited. They didn't make an announcement right away. They waited for consultation with the province. They came back from the province with that ability that said that they can use. Now, I literally went to a rep from the minister's office, and that is what I was reading out before. So what I'm saying is, they agreed with our interpretation. They agreed that, because that was literally in my question, can we run a non-rep facility with adult programming? And they said they agreed with it. So what I'm asking is this. I want us to make the right decision. I want us to get that recommendation so that we know for sure. I would like us to specifically write that in and get that from an HS or minister's office before changing it, because we're making a massive change on everybody if we change to this. That's all I'm asking for, because I believe that you did your due diligence fully, Paul, of course. And I understand you're interpreting, but we're still interpreting. And we found out last time that the regulations that went out there, because even if you go on the site right now for Alberta COVID site, the problem with how they have it set up is they do talk about facility, and then underneath they talk about activities. And right in activities, it puts there. And that's the problem, is we're guessing that you can't put an activity in the facility. And they didn't go out there and say, yes, you can put an activity in a facility, and they didn't say, no, you can't. They put it in here listing how to do the activity. That is all I'm asking for, is us not to make a change today that would massively impact when we don't know. We literally don't know because we have a recommendation on this side that shows that you can have adult programming. We're saying we can't see it in the base of the order. Totally understand there. I'm saying this, isn't it our due diligence before cutting out half of the minors who could even be in that building to spectate? We do have an ability for adults to still go because it's our choice to say every building. We don't have to. We can go different buildings for different regulations, as Paul stated. I'm saying rather than us changing this today, we can change this in 2 weeks. Why would we not err on the side of safety right now and get those answers and then make a full change? It's fair to make a full change, I get it. But let's make it with proper information. Right now, we're guessing because of information we were presented when we have just as much information on the other side.
Well, if we're waiting to err on the side of safety, then everybody would get vaccinated and we wouldn't have this problem.
Totally agree.
Yeah, but it comes down to, and I won't move away from this. This is a democracy. The majority of the taxpayers in this town are already vaccinated. They pay for the facility, so I can't argue against making the facilities available to them because they feel they've done the right thing. I do not want us to be policing at a game that we got staff running around telling people, put your mask on. You two don't live close enough to each other. You got to move over there. You got to move over here. It will not be an easy thing to do. And so.
And I agree with you. You're 100% correct. It would not be an easy thing to do. But let's be very clear. That still is going to happen. Regardless, that happens because they still have to wear a mask inside. So they still have to run around and do that. So that isn't changing whether we have a rep or non-rep.
You can pick and choose parts that you agree with or you don't agree with. But for clarity here, when we have one security at the door at our facilities and people come in, it's very clear if they're coming in or they're not coming in. And again, I think we need to go with what the majority of people that pay the bills on that facility want. And by that, I mean, we already know what the rate is in this town through Alberta Health of our vaccination. So, the majority of people can have access to that building.
Agreed. I just wanted to clarify, though, that them getting access doesn't change once they come in whether or not we have to police the masking.
Okay, and I want everybody else to
Right.
know that I said something that was wrong. That the curling rink could be put as a rep facility, correct? And then we could have adult people with proof of vaccination could be in there. So that was on me. I was wrong about that. So, is there any way, well, you've asked Alberta Health, you've asked the province, and they will not give you any clarity here.
I've got hold of, in the regulation that it says if you have any questions, contact this email address. I sent an email outlining the situation. I got an email back saying, no, that's not our responsibility. Contact somebody at Alberta Health Services. I sent an email to someone at Alberta Health Services. I got an email this morning saying, no, that's not us. You got to talk to somebody in Alberta Health with no, and then they gave me the website link. So I clicked on the link. It took me to the Alberta government website. And there was no contact people in Alberta Health on that website that I could find. So it's like a runaround. And the other thing I'd like to say is that this whole discussion about the rep and non-rep, I get it. But I'm just trying to do what's best for our staff and what's best for our community. Because you have to realize if you have a non-rep program, there's people from outside the community coming. And you don't know what their community is like or where they came from. So I'm at a quandary because I understand what Councillor Roy was saying. And I know if I was a 12 or 13-year-old child, I wouldn't be very happy. But this is something that our Premier and his friends have decided that we have to deal with. So, unfortunately.
So if we moved to go to the rep with the exemption for youth under 12, over 12 to 17 years old, the only members of the organized sport that will not be able to play their sport, well, they could all play, it's just whether their parents will be allowed in our facility. when it comes to minor sports.
It's whether the adults will be allowed into the facility.
Yes.
And spectators.
Spectators and adults, yeah.
Okay, so what we've had is Councillor Lemko and Councillor Waters have changed that you'd like to go to the rep with the exemption for the youth too. So that's what the recommendation will be right now. The consensus of council will be to go that direction for now. Go ahead, Councillor Warwell.
So first off, Paul, I do want to tell you that I appreciate the work you do. I know you did a lot on this. I know you're trying to get an answer. I still would like us, though, to commit, if we're doing this, to two other things. One, to having somebody in to declare what that facility is, because we can change this tomorrow if we wanted to. And I would like to see us actually get somebody in that will declare whether that facility could be separated, just so that we know whether that's a thing to discuss. So I would like to put that forward as a possibility. The second thing is I would want clarity as to when we would make a facility rep, because what we have to be aware of is immediately games have to be canceled. So we need to know when we would be letting them do this, because the way it works with hockey, they're literally only scheduling teams against teams that had the same facilities. So scheduled Tyrion games will need to be canceled. So I need to know how quickly that has to happen.
So just to slow down a bit.
Yep.
So once the Vegreville hockey knows how we're going to go here, there will be teams that'll just pull out because their children are allowed to play here, but they will take their kids out, or they won't be.
No, that wasn't what I was saying. What I
Okay.
was saying is the league scheduled games based upon the type of facility you're running. So right now, all games that are scheduled with us are scheduled with other places that are non-rep. So we would have to let the league know, because they'll have to cancel those games because those teams coming to us can no longer come.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. The second thing, just for clarity, and I didn't really want to have to talk to this just because I want to make a council decision, but I should provide that information, is that we do have to, I'm not saying teams would pull out, but what I'm saying is there may be some adjustment from hockey as a user group as to how many teams can rent the ice, because we have such small numbers. Losing even 1 to 2 kids within that can be enough to take down an entire team. That's where we are at 2 levels. And when they take that team down, there are vaccinated kids who are fully falling, just won't have a place to play because the team is going away. That's one of the fears. The other thing is, if we change and we aren't allowing them in the building, but other places do, we will have to let them go and allow them to play for other towns, which is something that normally is not done through minor hockey. The regulations are very strong. It's like you own the player. They're given a number and you own them. They can't go because they don't like coaches or however the team phases out. But in this case, if we can't allow them into the building under those regulations or their family, we do have to let them go. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's another part of it. But I would want to know how quickly we were implementing it, whether it was immediate or not, to impact those other things.
Well, I guess if you need to reschedule games, I guess we will. What do we think? A week before we would bring this into place? Is there? What does the reg say? Like we need to make a decision and stick to it, or?
Yeah, the regulation doesn't say that, but it does say that you cannot escalate and de-escalate from rep to non-rep. You just can't keep bouncing back and forth. So if you're in it, you're in it, and if you go out of it, you're out of it.
And we tried the hybrid situation, and we have no clarity on that at all. Okay. So, looks like we're gonna go into the rep with the exemptions for the youth, 12 to 17. And I guess let minor hockey know and all the other user groups. And we will set up some protocols, using the one door into the facility, and go ahead.
And I will commit to contacting the AHS rep and get their clarity on all of this after we've made this decision, and just see what they think.
What do you mean? Like you feel that we didn't try?
No, I would like to get AHS approval on what we've done with this as well, if that's okay, or, because we do have the AHS rep that is here in town that we could have.
So I wanted to hold off to talk to them.
And just, I mean, get approval on this if.
Well,
if-
give them a
if-
call.
Okay.
I mean, we could have done that an hour ago, couldn't we?
Well, they'd have to come through all our buildings and do an assessment, but.
Your worship, I have a contact that I'll forward to Paul and Phil.
Okay, Councilor Riddick?
Sorry. I think my next question was one that we had when we first had this discussion, is I wanted to be able to clarify how and where both our staff and our citizens were able to access testing. I have forwarded as a volunteer in my role as Vice Chair of Yellowhead East Health Advisory Council that we require testing locally. And the outbreak status at some of our schools make me very concerned, in addition to the number that are increasing and the lack of testing that's available locally. But when I spoke with admin last week to clarify some of my concerns, and sorry, I didn't speak with you, Paul, we just conversed by email, but I spoke with Cliff. My understanding is that there is testing available locally that can be purchased. So I think it's important for us, if we're going to continue in our leadership role, to be able to provide accurate information prior to having these discussions in public. So if we can also provide that information, because I think it's inaccurate to say that there isn't testing, there is no swabbing center locally at this time. It is a concern that I've raised a few different times, and it is something that is being looked at to try to provide periodic swabbing locally. But if I can also ask admin or just clarify here after the meeting to be able to provide that information to our staff and to the public, that there are in fact, to my knowledge, 2 local businesses that provide that. So that may be incorrect.
Okay, Paul, did you have something regarding the exemption program that you want to
Yeah,
report?
just to deal with the concerns that Councillor Rawawa raised, I think it would be prudent to give minor hockey at least 2 weeks' notice to make whatever changes they have to make, and then we would implement the program. But that's just what I think, so.
Has anybody seen the numbers in our, in the
Yeah,
county of
there's
Minburn lately?
81 in the county.
What's the record?
That's the record, I think.
Yeah, we're getting up there, yeah. Again, here we are making health decisions for everybody, because why? I don't get it. But I actually don't really think we're gonna be able to run into our facilities very long anyway, because things are just getting worse and worse every day.
Just for your worship, as of today, there are 43 in the town of Vegreville.
Are
was-
they breaking it to town now, or?
Well,
On
once a
every
week,
Tuesday.
based on the numbers that they released for the weekend, every Tuesday, they update it once a week. So based on the numbers that were released for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there were 43 people in the town of Vegreville.
No, I was just asking because at one time, remember, we wanted them to separate the town and the county.
They do
Are
it
they
every
separating
Tuesday,
it?
every Tuesday.
Just the Tuesdays?
Just
and
on
then it adds
Tuesday.
to the other number?
Well,
As a
it's
total?
43 right now, and there were, as of Monday, I don't remember what there was yesterday there was 81.
Right.
So there's 43 in the town out of the 81 that they announced yesterday.
Okay, so Paul's recommendation here, before we go too far, is that we give all the user groups a notice that we are going to the rep with the exemption part in it, 2 weeks. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, and in the meantime, maybe we can call somebody that just lives in town and get an interpretation of this. Because if I had known that there was somebody that we could have in here right now, I would have asked for him here. I mean, I would have asked for him to be here. So, that being said, 2 weeks before we implement this, is everybody in favor of that? I mean, I don't know what I guess it doesn't really matter what Alberta Health cares or who the government of Alberta cares. I mean, we're looking after ourselves here, so we're trying to do the best we can. So what do you guys think of 2 weeks before we implement this program? And hope to God that their facilities will still have the numbers won't go through the roof, so.
Your worship, I was just thinking 2 weeks for minor hockey, not for any other facility. So if we're gonna,
The arena, you mean?
the arena, sorry, yeah, for the arena, not for any other facility,
So we'll leave it in the hybrid situation that we originally said for 2 weeks.
in the arena, yes. But the other facilities, the aquatic and fitness center, and the dance studio and the curling rink will be the rep with the youth exemption.
So will we have to put security over at the curling rink?
Well, is there ice in the curling rink? We
The
might,
boards are going in on Sunday, I think.
yeah,
Yeah, the plant was fired up today. So they'll be starting to make their ice, and I believe they're looking to start on October 25th.
Okay, so we're gonna have some recommendations on, how our staff, are we gonna have our staff, or are we gonna have, who's gonna be the policing it, whatever the recommendation's gonna be?
I'll have to have a discussion with the recreation staff to figure out the logistics of this.
Okay, so we'll have that, recommendation by the next council meeting. Okay,
Just a question?
yep,
I appreciate the timeline there because it will at least allow user groups to reach out to the regulatory bodies. And also, in fairness, we can say what we're saying today, but I would expect that we have that AHS person come in and look at that, because we still, in that 2-week time period, have the ability to make an adjustment then, which would be fair. I feel there's no reason not to have an AHS person look at our buildings and then let us know. That would just be fair, I think.
if you could talk to this AHS person, and if he's gonna come in here and tell us nothing, tell him not to come.
Right.
Your worship, I think what the interpretation is what Hockey Alberta has put. Why is it not in the provincial regulations? And that's the big confusion, is that you've got one document from Hockey Alberta and a document that we're going off is the requirements of the Alberta government, and the Hockey Alberta document is not, and that concept of non-rep is not in our regulations or our requirements, and that's what we're going off, is what the provincial document is. So I think that's that clarity that maybe AHS may be able to tell us, because we can't get answers anywhere else.
Can you tell me, Phil, which document you were using as far as, or do you have the reference, the document number that was used as far as providing the facilities? Because just from the
These
email
are
I
right
got
off
here.
the,
Oh, no, sorry, I meant from Alberta Health Services or the province. Just, I got a bunch of document numbers, I was wondering if you have that. You can send it at any time, it doesn't have to be right away. Thank you.
do
You
you
know,
have that document number?
I'm getting to the point where I don't really care what minor hockey says. I don't care what AHS says. I don't even care what the province says, because I have a new role, and we all do, looking after the health of our community. And if we don't start putting that first, and to say that, you know what, with the rest of these people that can't make up their minds, our new responsibility is the health of our community. So we better take that into play here too. So that's all I get to say in this. Get us some answers from Alberta Health if you can. If they can't give you answers, we don't need to talk to them. It is just a pile of crap is what it is. Thank you. So, not only are we going to make decisions on whose sidewalk gets replaced next year, we have to make decisions on who may get sick and who may die. Thank God I put my name forward for that. And they have to give me a pay raise, I think, here pretty soon. Okay. That being said, let's move on to Cliff Craig. Do you have anything, Cliffs, that, no? Thank you. Okay, so under mine, I have some items. The mayor of Sundre. Regarding the RCMP retro pay. At their last council meeting on September 7th, 2021, council discussed the correspondence received earlier this summer from the town of Claresholm requesting that the Alberta government ensures that Alberta municipalities are not charged with assisting in the funding the RCMP retro pay when the arrangement is complete. It should be up to the province and the federal governments to deal with any shortfalls and not to overload the municipalities with further monetary strain. The town of Sundre would like to echo this statement. The town of Sundre is a municipality with a total population of under 3,000 citizens. The tax increase implication that would result from being required to pay retroactively to RCMP would especially after the economic effects of the pandemic be too great of a burden to place upon our taxpayers. Well, can you imagine if they had to pay 100% like we do, where they'd be? Okay, well, I appreciate you got anything you would like to bring?
I have a question that relates to this based on our, based on the All Candidates Forum last night. I had a question from somebody that wanted to know what the proportion is that the county pays for policing based on our concerns with the retro pay. And I also wanted to clarify that, again, that FCM and AUMA have brought forward these concerns, and this is currently a sticking point, that the retro pay, the ask is, retro pay would be covered by the federal government, and any municipalities that have been advised to set aside funds preemptively could use that towards some of the additional costs that are going to be incurred. But if I could get that clarification, because there was information that was put out previously by this provincial government that gave a few different options that, for example, smaller municipalities than Vegreville would have to pay some of the policing, and there is some concern or question about what the proportion is, who else pays for policing in Vegreville. Do you have that?
Go ahead.
The, pardon me, the formula that the province set out for municipal districts and counties wasn't necessarily based on per member. It was just a percentage that was used. And at the time, I believe our county started at about 110,000 and then went to 220 and 330. Now, there was a year delay in that with the COVID that was brought in. So I haven't seen any documentation as far as what other member municipalities would be paying, but I can certainly find out if there is. Okay.
Cliff, can you just tell us when they're expecting us to make this payment? Is it November?
We haven't received the invoice yet, but we're waiting for the exact amount, and the indication was that it would have to be paid in November, but we'll see when the invoice comes, when we actually receive it.
Okay. And, okay, so we have another letter from the town of Sundre to the Honorable Rick McIver, Minister of Municipal Affairs, and they are showing they're not very happy with removing the code of conduct bylaw, and they feel that it should still be in place. And I think that we agreed with that too, that we still believe that as the municipal affairs should always expect anybody that's an elected official to live up to a certain degree of dignity and responsibility. So those are the last two that I have. And now we'll have a round table discussion about what everybody's hearing out there. I'm sorry that I got a little upset there, but I just don't feel that we are in a position to make the decisions. And with what's going on in our community right now with these numbers, it is just very upsetting. And we are determining how we're gonna pack people into a facility, and for what reason, because pretty soon we're not gonna be using any facilities. So anyway, Councillor Barry, would you like to start us up?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't really have anything to bring up other than what we've been talking about already is about the major thing that's out in the community. I will say that it is unfortunate that after 4 years of very peaceful coexistence here on council, we've got a topic foisted upon us from the provincial government that can make tensions. And it's there's nothing personal about it, I know. And the aspect is that the province really hasn't made things clear. And the aspect also is what we've said more than once. Changes, changes, changes. What existed a year ago does not exist right now. When nobody was vaccinated, everybody was the same. And now, with the more and more people getting vaccinated, those that are not vaccinated are at greater risk of coming in contact with COVID, and that's what we're seeing right now. So I'll leave it at that and just say that it's a topic that I wish didn't have to come to council, because I'd much sooner debate what we're building next or what improvement we're doing than people's health. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brajak?
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I don't have a whole lot to comment on. I'll echo Councillor Berry's comments about how divisive this has been. It doesn't need to be. And I think that as residents, we need to have a lot of respect towards each other, as councillors as well. We need to have respect for everyone that we come into contact with. We have to have respect as to who decides that they are going to get the vaccine and who decides that they aren't. This is not a municipal council, it should not be a municipal council topic. And going forward, I think, again, with the respect, I think we need to think outside the box. We need to be prepared to offer our citizens a different way of recreation. And I think a lot of outdoor activity needs to take place to keep everybody safe. So if we can't offer indoor activities, then I think we definitely need to try to figure out some outdoor activities for our residents. And again, hopefully everybody has a lot of respect because there is a lot going on out there.
Thank you very much. Councillor Worla?
Thank you. I actually only had one. Now, it's about the exemption program, but I'm not getting into the exemption program. I just want to let, I had somebody reach out to me Wednesday night or Thursday, and I had just made a commitment to them that I would bring up 3 things. So one, it was Wednesday night. Yeah, they actually sent me the information that was presented from Paul today, so I just wanted to let them know, because in my follow-up to them, I said I would do 3 things, that I would bring that forward at our next meeting. I want them to know that the information we're talking about is the information they sent to it, so that's why I didn't actually bring it forward, because we already had it. The second thing I committed to do was let them know if I had heard anything from the Alberta sports regulatory body, being Hockey Alberta. I did hear back, and I did provide it to council, so I wanted to let them know that. And then the third thing that I had committed to do was doing my own personal outreach to the minister's office, which I have done. So I just wanted to let her know that, because I said that I would do those 3 things and that I would bring it up here. So I have. Good enough.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rudick?
So some of the reaches that I've had from the public have been very positive, and some of them have been extremely negative. And I've debated about bringing it up here, but I'm going to just, again, when we talk about being respectful, I shouldn't have to get a restraining order against somebody for the things that they're saying to me repeatedly. So I'm just going to put that out there. False equivalencies, conflation, and anybody that's coming up with misinformation should be very clear about what our role is as municipal councillors. But that's where we are at right now. I prefer the queries that I've had about the type of flowers and a push to look to the next year and what kind of selections that they'll be made downtown. So I've had queries about that. I've had queries about fences, heights, etc. Questions about the businesses downtown being affected by the construction, and they're very happy to see that it's moving ahead. And again, I'm just going to circle back to the thing that I started out with, is that I do think that having an attitude of positivity is extremely important in our ability to be able to act as leaders in this community. But I will again push back every time that there is something that is this directly negative towards me or my family, and I don't think it's appropriate. So as we're having these conversations, this is, again, a council table that makes decisions for our community. So I would, again, ask all of us, not in this room, those of you that are sending messages, both polite and not, to think about what you're asking us to do and what our role is on this table. So.
Thank you very much. Councillor Waters?
Okay, I was not aware of the total lack of respect on Councillor Rudick there. Totally uncalled for, especially to a degree like that. That's not good. I've had also the questions about rep, non-rep, vaccinated, not vaccinating, and people going to the point, you know what, I'm over it. And unfortunately, the I'm over it is showing up in the numbers. So we still have to be careful, we still have to mask, social distance, or vaccinated or not. I'm gonna leave that there and go on a little lighter note. Happy to see our extensive walking trails and parks being utilized, the warm fall evenings we've had. I heard somebody here say they heard snowflakes in the forecast, but yeah, the one that made the face. So very nice to see people out and about. People do come to our community. The Pisanka Park is busy. The corn maze, I'm sure we're gonna hear about it, is busy as well. So I'm gonna end that on that light note and just enjoy the outdoors.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lemko.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have, Dale will probably be able to enlighten us about some of the concerns people had. So I'll leave that for his report. But what I'd like to say is that we've been put in a tough position in the last couple of weeks with the restrictions and that as a council. But what I felt today was the passion in this room, how much this council and administration and everybody cares about this community, to a point where a total amount of respect I have for everyone in this room, based on that and how much we work together for the common good of the citizens of our community. So kudos to you all for bringing your left and right fists forward. I think at a point there I was going to tinkle the bell, but I didn't have one.
Don't you start ringing that bell. It doesn't ring.
Okay, well, thank you very much, all of council, and again, I apologize for my little outbreak there, but I just feel that it's just so wrong what position we're put in here, and I am a big supporter of democracy, and I always feel that the majority should rule. So, and again, I don't want to go any further with this. We'll get some more information, and we will make a decision based on the information that we have. We've had many contentious issues before, nothing anywhere near this, but through respectful dialogue, we always come up with the best answer for our community, and that's what we'll do here. So that's what I have. I could tell you what I've been hearing out there is a lot of stuff about the election and stuff, and I'm glad that we're here right now. So it's a good time for this community to take a look inward and decide where we want to go and who people are going to support, and I'm very happy that there's as many candidates are running as there is, so that's good. That's all I have to say, so I'll move to director highlights, and we'll start with Community Service Director, Bill Rowe.
Thank you, Worship and Council. Since the last meeting, we've been busy working with my departments on their 2022 budgets. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we completed our OH&S audit, which is our external core audit. This happens every 3 years. So we have gone through that process, and I'd like to thank the directors down to their managers and their staff for all their, Adam and I tasked them with a lot of information gathering at very short notice because the audit process has changed, and so there was some tense moments in our departments when it came to gathering a bunch of information and the interviews. So thank you to all of them for their hard work in making the audit successful. So we should have our results hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And of course, there's on Thursday the official trail openings with council at all the 3 new trails. And one thing that I guess I missed in the ledge meeting in September is a traffic report. Council had asked, we had some concerns about traffic speed past the Lady of the Highway Shrine. So I have some numbers here. It's a huge document that they report out. But from July 15th to September 21st, there was a total vehicle count of 57,652 vehicles in that time frame from July 15th to September 1st. The average speed of those 57,000 vehicles is 52 kilometers an hour. The tolerated speed range that they use was up to 70 kilometers an hour. The 70 plus is what they consider speed limit violations. It's actually only 3 to 7% based on the day-to-day. 93 to 97%, so 55,000 vehicles have been respecting the tolerated speed limit. So just an example, or 85 kilometers plus, which is considered an excessive speed, was less than half of 1% that of people doing over 85 kilometers. And between 70 to 84 was about 3 to 7% based on the days. So just an example, on July 24th, there was 1,220 vehicles that passed that sign that day. The average speed was 55 kilometers. There was 65 speed violations, which is 6% of the total vehicle count. Of those 65 speed violations, 98% of them were in the 55 to 84 kilometer range. Only 3 vehicles were over 85 kilometers an hour. And the max speed of that day actually was, one vehicle was doing 128 kilometers an hour past that sign, but that was at 12:30 at night, so.
Are you talking about the exit east of town?
Yes,
Where the concerned citizen was talking?
Yes.
And we put the flashing sign up there?
yep.
So,
93 to 97% of the drivers are respecting the speed limit there.
when there's a flashing sign with their speed posted on it?
Yes.
When there's none,
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they actually do follow it more.
well, they certainly do it, and I know that the resident is a lot happier when the flashing sign is there. When the flashing sign isn't there, they're probably gonna go back to doing what they were doing.
so,
But hopefully, it just, again, just identifies people that, you know, every time we put that sign out someplace, people say, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going that fast when they see it. So hopefully it registers in their mind, because, I mean, then it's doing its job.
Yep.
Because most people see it, do not speed up. Councillor Lemke.
Yeah, those numbers might actually change after the construction on the bridge, because that might have had a, speed fines double and that kind of, and the traffic cone, so that might be changed, but I encourage keeping that sign up there.
yeah, we're gonna keep it up for another 45 days after the construction's complete and just do another analysis of the data. So that's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for, okay, we're gonna move on to IP&D. Mr. Director LaFave.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first update would be on the lift station at Prosperity Park. We have, the wet cell is complete and installed. They are now working on the stainless steel piping that goes in the exterior of the structure, down as low as the 9.2 meters. And the foundation for the building is already being formed and set with piles, so they are moving along quite nicely, so it's nice to see the project going well. The 2021 Capital Works project, since last we met, 45th Avenue from the water reservoir by the pool to the cenotaph is complete. It's had its 2 asphalt lifts completed there. We did do that small stretch, 49th Ave and 48th Street West, which would be from Coho's Law Office to the west, short distance. That's got the 2 lifts. It's completed and wrapped up. And just only recently we moved on to Main Street. We've got a couple blocks done there. Unfortunately, yesterday, late in the day, when they finished over by the pool, they'd moved here and started to do some more paving, and then they had some equipment trouble. They've tried a couple times today to get over that equipment trouble and are still struggling as I'm texting while we're having the meeting, keeping in touch with my people. So hopefully as soon as they get that going, we'll roll. Once up and operating, there is realistically approximately 2.5 days of paving and we're done. But unfortunately today we were a victim to equipment failure that they're struggling to get on the fly. So other than that, the project is very much nearing the end for sure. And then within probably by the 21st or 24th, somewhere in there of October is when they'll come in and mill the asphalt and inlay the parking lines in the center line, as we had originally 30 years ago, which held up right until construction, so it was a good way to do it. If there's any questions, I have one more thing, but I'll answer any questions on the projects first, if there's any.
Go ahead, Councillor Riddick.
I do have a question, as you're just talking about the parking spaces. So I had the question from one of the businesses that wanted to know if council will keep the parking suggestions that are currently in place in all of the same spots that were previously marked. So as the overlay is going to be new, are we going to stick with the same restrictions or suggestions for parking as we had previously?
Are you referring to spacing for the parking stalls, for the size of, or
No,
are you talking about disabled
they're
parking?
asking, yeah, they're asking about disabled parking. They're asking if they are required where they currently exist, because there have been some that we've addressed maybe in the last couple of years that were maybe no longer relevant or needed to be placed in different locations. Of course, there is an implication with the signage on the boulevard or on the sidewalk, but that was the question, is that will the marking on the pavement remain the same? Is it still appropriate?
Are you talking like, are the handicap spots are gonna be right where they were before this project started?
That is our plan at this point, just leave them where they are unless I get other direction. And those symbols that are painted on will not be inlaid and milled, they will be painted on top in the event things change down the road, because once they're milled and poured inlaid, that's there for 30 years.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Have we ever identified that we have too many? Have we ever had complaints?
The only time I received a complaint, Your Worship, was a few years ago when we had a summer student issue where we had two of the handicap signs in front of the post office, which signified the beginning and the end of one stall. And they went ahead on their own and painted two stalls and created two of them, so we had to go get rid of one. But that was just very eager summer students that were doing their thing. But other than that, I have not had a complaint about too many.
Okay, well, once this project's done, I think we should all walk down Main Street and talk to all the businesses and tell them that, you know, that we appreciate their patience, that's for sure. Because construction typically goes a lot better than what this was, and again, we won't go there right now because we're just hoping that the next couple of days it'll get wound up, so.
Yeah, that's right. I do have one more item. Public Works Department, we're working on a CC water valve on the southeast corner of town yesterday. And at about early afternoon, the CC they were working on, the service line to the main blew right out of the main line, which does not happen that often. Point is, they were able to eventually get the water shut down and affect only about 2 blocks. And they elected to stay with it, do the type of break, and they wrapped up a patch repair and had the water back on at 12:30 this morning. They stayed and worked right through, and then they were back at it this morning to put the permanent fix on. So the interruption to the residents was as minimal as we could make it, and because all of town staff, including IP&D staff, need to be given a big thank you when it is time, and that was certainly time, because they just weren't quitting until that was patched up and they could get the water on. So I give them kudos to them. I'm very proud to have that team underneath me.
I would imagine, I've heard a few comments from the residents about when it happened and stuff, and I'm glad they stayed there and got it fixed too, and, well, Cliff can go home and have a shower tonight.
It had nothing to do with where he lives.
I've read Rick, the boss of the town, yeah. Okay, I do have a question, Dale, on the treatment or the overlays that we've done on the rest of 45th Avenue there and we did in front of the Sunshine Club. What's the expectancy on that patch that we put on there?
That's a 5 to 7 year
Okay.
of a slurry overlay. And like I said, that's laid out at about 6 mil. So these are roads that are probably not gonna hit the PQI for an overlay in time as we continue to do funding. MSI is low. So what is happening, we're laying that down to buy us that 5-7 years to extend the pavement quality index for the mill and overlay is what I'm talking about. It'll extend the time we need or that we'll have to mill and overlay it for big dollars.
So we're gonna, keep, some data on this and as we're moving forward and,
It's a new product, a new idea for us, and like I said, we started it just over a year ago, on 51st Street, just behind Cal Tire, if you will. And it performed well for the summer and for a winter of being graded and scraped with the grader and things, and we're happy with it, and it went through another summer. We'll give it, so as we're seeing good performance, then we're gonna move on and do this. It's really quite inexpensive to do. It's very quick to do, unless you lay it out and it rains right away, because that can happen, but.
yeah, but it tacks up pretty quick.
It
That's
tacks
the-
up pretty quick, yep.
Yeah, I know that I talked to some of the residents on 45th there, and, yeah, they were saying, well, looks a lot better for sure.
Yeah.
And if we can get some more expectancy of the lifespan of it, because you're right, we're gonna have some challenges with the infrastructure dollars moving forward. Anybody else have any questions for Deb? Okay, thank you very much. Paul Casey, Corporate Service Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a whole lot. As council knows, Mrs. Saskew has become the new Corporate Services Director interim on my retirement. So I've been spending a lot of time with her and getting her up to speed on the things that I do. She's making a list of all the things she wants to know about, so I think it's getting quite long. And working on budget and of course working on this very contentious issue, which I have to say I haven't slept well for a couple of weeks. This is driving me nuts. Anyway, that's really all I have.
Well, and I wanna thank you, for the time that you're putting in this, and I know you take it home with you too, and it's, we all do, and, again, it's probably not the right position for us to be in, but it is where we're at, and again, we appreciate all the effort you put into it and all the senior men, what we're doing here, so. Next up, Town Manager, Mr. Cliff Craig.
Thank you, Your Worship. Since the last legislative committee meeting, the mayor and I had a meeting with Minister McIver, Minister of Municipal Affairs, and our MLA to request additional funding for the ISIT project at Prosperity Park. The next day, I had a meeting with the newly appointed Municipal Affairs Deputy Minister, Brandy Cox. She's meeting virtually with municipal administrators across the province. We had an excellent discussion on a variety of topics. Fire Services Agreement, the Intermunicipal Committee met to discuss a revised proposal to the county. In the essence of time, the committee directed town administration to meet with county administration representatives. Phil Rowe and I met with the county administration to discuss the reviewed proposal, and we have a meeting with them again tomorrow morning. The CARES grant, the CARES final project achievement report has been submitted along with the financial report. Different COVID meetings that I've attended, the following virtual meetings. Municipal affairs for municipal administrators, and the topic of REP, of course, came up, and there were no answers, and it was taken back for more information, which we haven't seen anything. So we're not the only one that's discussing these issues. And an AHS community conversation regarding the position in Central Health.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
That's
questions?
That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Any questions for Cliff? I'll give you a little update on our meeting with Minister McIver from Municipal Affairs. I accidentally ran into, on purpose, the Minister of Transportation, and then I ran into the Minister of Infrastructure, and then we were directed to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. And again, it's regarding some of the cost on our park, and we're all partners in it, federally and provincially and municipally, so why can we not share some of this? But we're not having much luck yet, but I will be persistent, and I will keep trying and knocking on the doors. Minister McIver said, I understand you're probably gonna get a hold of me as soon as this budget cycle's over. And I said, yep, I'll be the first guy on your doorstep, because he said, we have no money in this budget. I said, perfect, well, we'll get there before the next one's done. So We'll keep trying. Thank you, Cliff. A couple of important dates that are coming up for everybody is tomorrow. October the 6th is our first advance poll for the municipal election. And it's at the library, at the gym, at the back door, correct? And what time does it start? From 12 noon till 8 o'clock tomorrow night. The next one will be October the 13th at the same location, same hours. And then we have a regular council meeting on the 13th, which will be our last one of this council. And then election day is October the 18th, and it's at the social center, correct? Yes. So those are important dates coming up, and that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything they would like to bring forward? Okay, that being said, we have a couple issues that we need to go into closed session for, so I'd take a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Waters, all those in favor?